Hey guys, this is Andrew, and we are at Movie Clips, and we are going to be talking about Prometheus, specifically how it disappointed us. We're the negative crew, kind of. And to really get into this, we're probably going to be going into a lot of the spoilerific territory. So if you haven't seen the movie, please do not watch this. Please.
So once you watch it, come back and watch this.
Exactly. So, okay, so we have some questions, right?
Yes. Least favorite thing.
Yes. What was your least favorite thing?
You're Andrew, right?
Yeah, I'm Andrew.
Blair.
I'm Bill.
There you go.
Okay.
My least favorite thing.
Least favorite aspect. Oh, right off the bat, I just want to say, immediately when I left this movie, I was thinking that, like, okay, this movie has been advertised as posing all of these great questions, right?
Yeah.
And immediately I was reminded of two films that I hate. Mission to Mars and Aliens vs. Predator.
Mission to Mars.
And basically, Prometheus is the bastard child of Mission to Mars and Alien vs. Predator. It has some of the same exact scenes from both of those movies. And this isn't like new territory, Chariots of the Gods. It's a very, common idea in science fiction, and I think it executed it very poorly. My least favorite thing about the movie, though, is just the characters. Inexplicably doing ridiculous things throughout the entire film.
My least favorite thing about this movie is that how good the first half was. It totally suffered from Lost syndrome. All right, we had a writer who wrote like 115 episodes of Lost, and he sets up these amazing mysteries. He's asking these great questions, and then you get the least satisfying conclusion you can imagine. And just the way, like you were saying, the characters doing inexplicable things right at the end, just like turning and no explanation of why.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you guys said about the characters. They felt pretty bland, about as interesting as the wallpaper, I'd say. And it doesn't say much when the best person on the job, or the guy that gives the best performance, is mimicking a robot. I mean,
Totally,
what does that tell you?
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I always enjoy the science fiction films that try to go after certain, themes or issues. And it just seemed like they had a lot of these, but they were just like tacked on, like belief and faith and that whole deal, which just really rubbed me the wrong way. And yeah, of course, just the whole third act was a mess.
Oh my gosh.
I really like the idea of faith being challenged in a science fiction movie, but you don't do it the right way when you constantly have to remind everybody that, hey, you're wearing a cross. Why?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how you implement faith in a movie.
Yeah.
And I thought Contact didn't do it very well, but Contact did it so subtly compared to this movie. And I love Contact, but that movie had flaws too. But going to the inexplicable choices from characters, the one thing that I loved about Alien and Aliens is that there was a group of people that were very different from each other. You had the Marines, and then you had the blue-collar trucker guys. And so their interaction with new organisms and it's kind of like foreign stuff in front of them, like, they were very intelligent about everything that they did. They were very cautious about everything they did. Maybe not so much in Aliens because they're grunt guys, but the Prometheus crew are scientists. And unlike the other ones, they're chasing after this stuff. And they do the stupidest things. For example, okay, so you have the biologist and you have the geologist.
Yes,
okay,
I love this.
And they both have gear that could, you can see them at all times. The captain can see them at all times. Everybody can see them. They both map out, using the geologist's own equipment, the stuff to map out the caverns exactly the way they go back while everybody's still able to monitor them, and they get lost. I'm sorry, that is lazy writing. That is just lazy.
And this is after the guy's like, I'm a geologist, I love rocks, I love everything to do with rocks, and he looks like lost in a Costco, like, did I park over here?
Exactly,
I can't.
Exactly.
And like, I bought the one guy taking his helmet off,
Yeah.
but everyone takes their helmet off. Like, you deserve to get a space disease and die a horrible death if you're taking your helmet off.
The two things that really annoyed me about all of the characters was, one, the ambivalence from everybody. For scientists, these are some of the most ambivalent people I've ever seen. Like, even like Ash in or not Ash, she's a robot, but even Kane in Alien, just a blue collar guy, was totally fascinated by everything he was seeing. These guys don't give a shit about anything. Like, they literally, when they land there, they are the team leaders for the scientists and for the ship's crew. They're more centered on having sex than they are about anything. While two of their guys are lost.
Yeah, I don't mind a little ambiguity, like Michael Fassbender's robot character. The whole movie, you're like, why is he doing this? And you know that he's doing it for a reason, and that you're going to find out what that reason is. And then you never really do find out what that reason is. Why did he poison that guy? Like, why did he give that guy the little alien virus?
Yeah.
No reason. They don't explain it at all.
Exactly. And going off of that, because what Whalen wants to accomplish in this is different from what he wanted to accomplish in the other Alien movies.
Yeah, totally.
In the other Alien movies, he wanted to bring back the xenomorph in a body so he could preserve it so that they could, maybe militarize it, weaponize it or something. So it's understandable that you would, use people as bait to do that. Mm-hmm. But in this, he wanted to find the origins of life.
And he had no idea what a xenomorph was, or that there would be anything that they could monetize or weaponize.
Exactly.
He would have no clue.
Weaponization was not his thing. So why would you risk the life of one of the 17 crew members, one of the few scientists on the ship, to test this on them?
Totally.
Why not test it on a grunt or something that came with the ship? It doesn't make sense, especially when you consider that David later... he sets them all up to die. He later tells her in a great line, but misused, I didn't know you had it in you. That was a great line. I'm sorry. And then he would later say to Elizabeth Shaw, oh, the space jockey is coming after you. You got to get out of there.
He wants to help her.
His motives. What are his motives?
All right, so my least favorite character was the tie between Whelan. Just because I always it's one of my hugest pet peeves in movies of, regular aged actors that put on like the terrible putty makeup that makes them look all old and whatnot. He looked more like Prune Face from Dick Tracy. So
why not just cast an old actor?
Right? Get the
why
Dick
is Guy Pearce even in it?
Yeah,
I kept thinking he was.
Tell me Anthony Hopkins isn't doing anything.
Seriously,
Michael Caine,
Christopher Plummer.
Like I thought Guy Pearce was going to somehow get turned young by the aliens. Like I thought that was the only explanation.
I think that was a thing that a lot of people felt. I actually think that at one point in the script they might have had a scene where David does that dream thing with him and he talks to him younger, which makes sense. And there is a viral TED talk.
That was
which and I don't
an
also
older actor could have done that.
Yeah, exactly. I never really minded old age makeup that doesn't necessarily need to be there, but only when Dick Smith is doing it. Like F. Mary Abraham and Amadeus, The Godfather, Marlon Brando,
you have to what they forget is you have to get a bigger nose. When you age, your nose keeps growing. So old men have bigger noses than young men.
Dick Smith seemed to be the guy who's capable of doing that.
Yeah, my least favorite character was the engineers, because you open with an incredibly self-sacrificial act. This alien drinks this stuff, he kills himself just for the purpose of creating life. It's incredibly sacrificial, and then the next time you meet them, they just start killing everyone for no reason. Yeah. And I was sitting in my seat thinking, if I don't know why this guy started killing everyone by the time this movie is over, then I'm going to be pissed, and this movie sucks. And that's exactly what happened.
You can't really make a distinction, a real distinction between the engineers in Prometheus by the third act and the battleship aliens.
Yeah,
because they're supposedly a smarter being, yet they just go off in a crazy rampage.
How can you have an antagonist who you don't understand their motives?
Yeah,
that's a terrible. That's just bad writing, I thought.
Yeah. And they use a flute to control their ship.
like the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
My least favorite character is Charlie Holloway, or. Is that his name, Charlie Holloway?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The boyfriend of the main character.
Yeah, because he was just... I found him to be a little dick the entire way through. He gets there and he's like, oh, we only have 6 hours of sunlight. I want to go out there right now. I have to...
Yeah.
You're a scientist and you're a researcher.
You're a rock and roll scientist.
Yeah. Patience is a virtue with scientific research. And he doesn't exude any of that. Plus, alright, so he goes there, he sees this ancient temple, he sees these bodies of extraterrestrial life, he should be floored. Instead, he, once they come back to the ship and once they're playing around with the head, he's, sulking in the corner, drinking himself, because, immediately within the first few hours of landing there, they haven't talked to a sentient being who's, intelligent enough.
Or was he getting drunk because his girlfriend almost got herself killed?
I was hoping that he would, get drunk, and she's like, "Why aren't you excited, Charlie? Why we're doing that?" And I was hoping for a moment where he just came up to her and said, you risked your life for that. That's important to me, but not as important as you.
Yeah,
that was
that's
a
what
stupid
I thought.
act. I'm really mad that you did that. And then they have mean, angry revenge sex afterwards,
Right.
which would have been great. But there wasn't even that. So like it came off like he was just inexplicably mad because he wasn't able to talk to the sentient life being. Like immediately when they landed there, he's kind of a flippant character. He's really obnoxious, and I think he represents just the poor writing for the characters in order to jump to each specific set piece.
Yeah.
All right. So, what was your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene had to be once they crashed their ship into the alien ship, and it started some sort of giant wheel effect.
when it's like falling down.
Yeah, when it's falling down like that, and Charlize Theron gets stuck on that, and it just reminded me of that scene from Austin Powers where the guy gets run over by the steamroller. He's like, no! It's still coming. You just roll over to the left. Come on. I mean, that just totally took all the air out of the movie for me.
For me, it was the next scene where she goes to the escape hatch and the giant squid facehugger thing is there, and David tells her, like, dude, the engineer is coming to kill you, and she gets a battle axe. And then he runs in the room and immediately gets eaten by the squid.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought this was the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that this was all building up, and we were gonna have this amazing like horror scene where like a cat and mouse game is there, and instead it was so rushed. Like the whole third act was just too rushed.
And you think about that scene in Aliens when Sigourney Weaver in the escape pod sees the xenomorph.
Oh, and the light is flashing.
And the light is flashing, and she very slowly, cautiously, buckles herself down, and starts like singing a lullaby to herself to keep herself calm.
Yeah,
that was really suspenseful.
Yeah, like there's no suspense whatsoever. Like, how about like the engineer is like coming towards her and she's like has to like hit the button to open the door to let the monster out. Nothing like that.
Yeah, it's more B-level shock value than it is true terror, which really has demonstrated before, and that's the real disappointment in it. Yeah, my least favorite scene is probably only one line, but it's after the engineer comes alive. And he rips off David's head. And a lot of people have defended this because they say, like, what did David say to the engineer? Did that trigger him to take off, or was he going to just attack him anyway? And it's true, but I think you can't just say an entire scene is saved by the possibility that one line could make up for it. But he rips off David's head, smashes people, kills Kate Dickie in a really quick way. Like, he just pushes her and then she's dead. And I love Kate Dickie. She's such a great actress. And just to see her punk out like that, it's really not cool. But then the line came where Guy Pearce just says, "There is nothing." And David says, "Yes, you're right, so see you on the other side."
The other side of
so
nothing.
Pandering and so obnoxious and so stupid.
I thought I was gonna love that scene because when the engineer grabs David and rips his head off, I thought he was gonna stop there, and he'd be like, "That's an abomination. I'm God. I made humanity. You guys can't do it yourself." That would have been like, but no, he just goes berserk.
One aspect that I do really like, people have been hypothesizing about who the engineers are, and I think it's a really fascinating aspect, is that they aren't the creators. They're more like these dark angels of a higher being, a higher
that would
power.
make sense. Yeah.
And in the same way that biblically angels came down to be the messenger to the humans from God.
Yeah,
it came down to.
That's one thing I liked was when Holloway was like, "Look, we know the aliens made us," and she says, "Well, who made them?"
Yeah, exactly.
That was one part that it actually addresses the bigger issues there.
Yeah,
but
so next question: how did it answer the big questions? Which is right where we're going towards.
Which I thought somebody was saying that okay, the aliens make humanity. And then they regret it, and they want to destroy humanity. So if that's the case, why aren't there any literary allusions to the Bible and the flood, where God made man and He repents of, He says, "I regret making humanity, and I'm sending this flood to wipe." That would have been great for literary references and visual poetry of flood imagery and things like that.
And you feel the weight of guilt in humanity in stories like that.
Yeah.
And even just that kind of weight. You could bring your own interpretation and harken back to the references in Western society and Western civilization and all that. But it feels so B-level shock value all the time that it doesn't really feel like it earns any of those weighty themes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I almost think the question itself is misleading because I didn't care about a lot of the answers. I think it's not about the questions that I care about. It's about a discussion. When you look at Arthur C. Clarke, what Arthur C. Clarke and Kubrick did in 2001, we're still talking about that movie, not because of questions we're dying to get answered, but because of the discussions that the questions, I guess, in the movie bring. You never see the aliens in those. No. You just leave with a lot of vigor to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of life beyond the world we see. And in this, I feel like Damon Lindelof, who's really to blame here, I think, the screenwriter from Lost and everything, I think he approaches these questions and the notion of a discussion of the film in a pornographic sense. And by that I mean there is an answer, there is something here. I'm just going to tease you by showing you a little, and all you want to do, all I'm assuming that you want, is to see what's on the other side. Mm-hmm. And that's not what makes great cinema. That's not what makes great storytelling. What makes great storytelling is the discussion that comes out of that. Not just teasing what you made up on the other side, which seems to be what Prometheus is all about.
Which leads us to the next question: why didn't this movie live up to the hype?
Why didn't
that's it? Like, you can blame Lindelof if you want, but I think Ridley Scott dropped the ball in the third act.
Everybody kind of dropped the ball at some point.
And the movie had so much going for it. Like the art direction, the cinematography, the casting. Stunning. It was superb.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
absolutely.
Earlier you were talking about how the score was great, and it had that sense of discovery that it was very Star Trek. This movie was kind of like horror Star Trek.
But then it just it seemed like in the third act it just shifted right into a schlock horror sci-fi.
Well, and he didn't earn the emotional impact that he was going for. Like the scene where Holloway says just burn me. That was totally rushed. And the scene where the captain decides to kamikaze into the alien ship. And it's supposed to be
do it.
Yeah. And the two other guys are let's go.
Let's die.
And it was so rushed. I didn't I literally thought they want me to be sad, but I can't be sad because it didn't have that time to breathe.
Exactly.
Again, it was rushed.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like a lot of defenders would say well, it's not about those emotional moments. It's about the bigger questions. It's about the themes in the movie. Well, they present these catharses and they present these crescendos of emotion.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Father?
Yeah, that was so cheesy.
That was an emotional revelation that was neither emotional nor a revelation.
I knew, the audience, that's treating the audience like they're babies.
Yeah,
because I knew she was her, she was his daughter without her being Father.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't we get that reveal a little more subtly, please?
Or having the Ahab and the captain and the ship, and everything going down at the end.
Yeah.
I'm
so
sorry,
that's why.
This is the same captain who basically ignored the fact that two of his men or two of the people on the ship were desolate in a strange place. He was more preoccupied with screwing Charlize
Theron. He just wanted to get laid.
And I'm supposed to now believe that he's this big sacrificial hero at the end. I'm sorry, you can't have these moments and earn them without earning them.
That's to me the conclusion I have to draw is that why it didn't live up to the hype. It promises Arthur C. Clarke, but it delivers Michael Crichton. Yeah. And I love Michael Crichton. I love Jurassic Park. But you just have to have that from the beginning. Exactly. You can't do a bait and switch for what kind of a movie. What kind of a movie are we making here? Yeah. That's what they didn't ever stop doing.
And I feel
I loved the journey. Yeah. This movie was 70% great for me, but then the destination was just terrible.
Yeah. I love the first half hour too. I just with expectations. If you look at a movie like Blade Runner, his last science fiction movie. That has a lot of ambiguity, too. Spoilers for Blade Runner. It raises two really important questions. Can a synthetic being have a soul? And I think, yes, I think that answers it. Because at the end, synthetic character, he learns the sacrifice or forgiveness by allowing his hunter to live and not killing him. I think that's a very human thing to do, and I think that kind of answers that question. And then you get the question of, is Deckard a replicant or not? And these are open-ended, but they've added so much to the discussion of what makes humans, what makes the soul have a resonance. And this movie...
it told the story in a way that got you thinking. Instead, this tells the story in a way that makes you oh, there's a xenomorph at the end.
Yeah.
Let's get pumped up for the sequel.
And it's Alien vs. Predator.
That's not bringing a discussion.
I'm sorry, but that ending is Aliens vs. Predator. It just replace the space jockey.
Don't call it Prometheus, call it Alien prequel, and then people at least know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
But, so that's what we hated about
I do like a lot of stuff in this movie, as we said.
Comments below.
Comment below, please. But I have to say, before people start hating on us or anything, I love the art direction of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I hate 3D, and I thought the 3D was great.
It was a
Stunning.
good movie and a terrible film. But it tried to be a film. It should have just gone for being a movie. But anyway, hopefully this gets you guys talking too.